In this lesson, we are going to be making a colorful peacock collage. A collage in art is when you use more than one type of material to complete your work. So for this lesson, not only are you going to be using a piece of paper, we're also going to be using some cardboard and some markers and crayons, and I'm going to give you some suggestions for other decorative materials that you might want to add to your peacock later on. So what you need to begin with is one piece of white paper for our feathers. You need a piece of cardboard, any size will do. Mine's just a recyclable piece of cardboard from a box from the recycle bin that I cut to the size that I wanted. You need a pencil, an eraser in case you make a mistake, a black marker or crayon to outline if you'd like, a pair of scissors to cut, and you need some type of glue to glue our feathers on later on. Glue stick is fine. White glue works just as well. And if you don't have glue, you could always use tape. And of course, for coloring and decorating, we need some markers and crayons. If you want to try some color pencils or oil pastels or paint, that's up to you. But markers and crayons work just as well. So let's get started on creating our peacock collage. To begin, we're going to draw the body of our peacock on the piece of cardboard that we have in front of us. Whatever size cardboard you have is perfectly fine. Just make sure that you turn it horizontal across so that you have enough room to make the body of your peacock. If you hold it vertical, it's going to end up being very tiny and small. So horizontal will work best. I'm going to draw with a marker so that everyone can see. You should draw with a pencil in case you make a mistake. So I'm going to start by making the head of my peacock, and I'm going to start towards the top and the side of my paper. And I'm going to start by making a curved line. Nice and big. I'm going to take that line and I'm going to go right where I left off at the end, and I'm going to curve down and across. I want to try to use up almost my entire piece of cardboard because I want my bird to be nice and big. I'm going to keep going and take that line, and I'm going to go up and across, and then I'm going to connect it where I left off for the head. That gives me the basic shape of the bird's body. I'm going to go over to the side of the head, and I'm going to make a nice size triangle for the beak, and I'm going to add a line in the center. A peacock, their eye usually has a circular shape around it. So I'm going to go right at the end of the beak, and I'm going to make a curve and touch the top of the beak. Inside that curve, I'll make an oval for the eye, and I'm going to make a smaller circle for the pupil or the black part of the eye, and I'm going to color it in with my marker or pencil so I can see it better. Peacocks usually have these little swirls at the end of their eye, so I'm just going to simply add that also. That gives me the basic shape of our peacock to begin with. Now, once I have the basic shape done, I can take markers and crayons and add some designs. So you can make patterns if you wanted, using different types of lines. I'm going to make some curved lines so it almost looks like there's feathers on my peacock's body. So I'm going to start with blue, and I'm going to make some curved lines to look like feathers. You want to make a different design, that's up to you. I'm going to start with blue, and then I think I'll switch to purple. Usually when you see drawings of peacocks, they're all different shades of blues and purples and greens, but you can make yours whatever color you want. And I think I'm going to take green, and instead of making the wavy lines, I'm going to add some polka dots in mine. Now you could do this with markers, you could do this with crayons or colored pencils or oil pastels, or you are using cardboard. If you wanted to paint, paint will show up on the cardboard. If you do decide to paint, you just have to give the bird a couple minutes to dry before you can cut it out and complete the next few steps of the lesson. I like to use markers to make the designs and then crayons to color in the rest of the bird. So now that my markers are done, I would switch to crayons, and because markers are darker than crayons, I could color over those designs I made and they wouldn't get ruined. That's a little trick I like to do with markers and crayons. Take your time when you color. Make sure you fill in the spaces. You can color different spots, different colors. Maybe you decide you want some pink, yellow, or red. This is your peacock collage, and make it as colorful as you want. Okay, and I would keep going until my peacock was completely colored in the way I wanted it to be. When it's done and it's completely colored, it looks a little bit like this. I finished coloring it, nice and neat, and I cut it out, okay? Now that it's all cut out, I can put this to the side and I can start to work on the feathers. Okay, so the body of my peacock is colored and cut out. I put that to the side, and now I'm gonna work on making some of the colorful feathers. Now here's where you can get super creative. You could find colored construction paper, maybe you have old scrap paper or old wrapping paper in your house or newspaper that you want to use to make your feathers, and that would look super cool for your peacock collage. But if you don't have those extra decorative things, I'm going to show you how you can just make the feathers using a simple white piece of paper and markers and crayons. But you can have the opportunity to get really creative with your bird. So if you look around your house and you've got some really cool things that you like to use for the feathers, go right ahead and use them. But if you don't, it's not a problem. So all I'm going to do is take a white piece of paper and I'm going to use my marker to draw the shapes of the feathers first. Remember, you should draw with a pencil in case you make a mistake. I'm going to try to put as many as I can on this piece of paper. So I'm going to do all different size feathers. So I'm going to start by making almost an oval shape, but instead of coming round at the end, I'm going to stop till it gets to a point and then pick up and connect it. And I'm going to do this over and over again, all different sizes for the shapes of my feather. If it's hard for you to make the point, you could always just make it more like an oval, and that'll work perfectly fine too. Even though I want to fit a lot on this paper, I'm still leaving space in between because I want to be able to cut them out later. And if I put the feathers too close together, it'll be very hard for me to cut. I think that's pretty good. Once I have all the feathers I want, now it's time to decorate them and color them in. So what I like to do is I'm going to kind of use that marker and crayon trick again. I'm going to start with the marker by using the markers to add the lines for the inside of the feathers. There's always lines inside feathers, one long line in the center and smaller lines on the side. So I'm going to use the markers to make those lines, and then I will use crayons to color in the rest of the feathers. And again, you can make your peacock as colorful as you want, so you can use whatever colors you'd like for your feathers. If you want to get super creative, instead of just doing the lines, you could always make some designs on the feathers. I don't know, maybe I put little polka dots. Maybe you decide the next one you don't want to make just those lines. Maybe you want to make zigzags. It's up to you. I would keep going until all of my feathers have all of the different colorful lines in them that I want them to have. Once I have the line designs on my feather, I would switch to crayons to color them in. So what I like to do is use a completely different color than the marker, because once again, the marker is darker than the crayon. So if I use a different color, I can color over the marker with the crayon and it'll also stand out, and I will see both the marker and the crayon when I am finished. Take your time, color them in completely and neatly. If you were gonna use crayons for the whole thing, the only difference is maybe I would just press a little bit harder with the crayons when I make the inside lines, and then just color lighter on top so that I can still see both inside my feathers. If you wanted to use color pencils or pastels for the feathers, that's up to you. And remember, if you want to get creative and look for other kinds of scrap paper or construction paper to use, by all means, go right ahead. I would keep going until I've completely finished all of the designs and coloring on my feathers. When they are complete, I'm simply going to take my scissors once again, and I'm going to cut out my feathers so that I have them in front of me, all ready for me to glue on to my bird. Take your time cutting, don't rush. Let's get ready to put our peacock collage together. Okay. So I have my bird, the body of the peacock, all cut out in front of me. I have my feathers all designed and colored and cut in front of me, laid out so I can see them. And I'm gonna need my glue stick because I'm gonna have to glue this stuff together. But before I do that, I can think a little bit what else I can add to my peacock. Now, maybe you just wanna stick with the body and the feathers, that's fine. But maybe you have some extra cardboard left over when you cut. And maybe you decide that you wanna maybe make like a wing that comes out from the peacock's body. So I'm gonna take that same feather shape and I'm gonna make it one more time on my cardboard. And I'm gonna take my markers in crayons and color it in the way I want it to be. Let's use some pink. And maybe I'll do some yellow. Again, if you have a different kind of paper you want to use, by all means, go ahead and use it. Newspaper would be really cool to decorate and color on. Old wrapping paper with all the different designs on the wrapping paper would be awesome for feathers. So let's see, I'll take this and cut it out. If you have a hard time cutting the cardboard, just ask an adult to help you. Some cardboard's thin, some's a little bit thicker. So if it's a little difficult, that's okay. Just ask for help and watch your fingers. I still have some extra cardboard, so maybe I want to make some feet. I can make some feet for my peacock. So maybe I just do kind of like a triangle. And color it in orange so it matches the beak. You don't have to do this, but it might look really good if you add some extra stuff. And it's always good to use your extra scraps and cardboard and come up with something else you can do. The more you think about it, the more creative you can be. Take your time when you cut. And 2. All right, let's put everything together. So I'm gonna take my glue stick and I'm gonna glue that cardboard wing that I just made down first. So I'm gonna put a little bit of glue on the back. I want it to stick out right over here. So I like to count to 10 in my head so I make sure that it doesn't fall off. And